Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. Again, my name is Carmen Rowland, and I'll be your facilitator for today's training on the Next Generation Assessment, Navigation, and SLED for the PARCC and MSAA assessments. We are going to provide you with some guidance on how to navigate SLED to find your results. So during today's training, I'll provide an overview of the Next Generation Assessment Suite. I'll also review information available in SLED, discuss the NGA views by user type and what each user type can see in SLED. We'll go through a brief SLED training where I provide you with information on how to navigate SLED to find your NGA results. And then as we end, I'll provide you with user support information and resources so that you can ask questions as we log off the webinar. So Next Generation Assessment Overview. What is PARCC? PARCC is the Partnership for Assessment of Readiness for College and Careers. This statewide assessment replaced the DC CAS assessment during the 2015 assessment administration. PARCC provides a measurement of student performance in the District of Columbia. The PARCC assessment provides educators and administrators with information regarding students' current performance and also with what students need to learn by graduation so that they are college and career ready. There are 5 performance levels on the PARCC assessment. Level 1 means that the student did not yet meet expectations. If a student receives a level 2, that means that they partially met expectations. If they received a level 3, that means that they approached expectations. If a student receives a level 4 or a level 5, this means that the student is either on track for the next grade level and they're also on track to leave high school, college, and career ready. Level 4 means that the student met expectations, and a level 5 means that the student exceeded expectations. What is MSAA? MSAA, formerly known as the National Center and State Collaborative, is the multi-state alternate assessment aligned to the Common Core state standards. MSAA is a comprehensive assessment system designed to promote increasing higher academic outcomes for students with significant cognitive disabilities in preparation for a broader array of post-secondary outcomes. Some LEAs in the District of Columbia administer MSAA in addition to PARCC, depending on their student population. So what data is available to you in SLED regarding the NGA? So LEAs can view mathematics and English language arts results and performance levels for current and previous year students who took the assessment at the LEA. LEAs may also download a PDF of each student's score report. So let's look at SLED school and LEA user types. LEA and school-based professionals have different levels of access to student assessment results in SLED. An LEA administrator may review all student PARCC and MSAA results for students in an LEA. A school administrator may view all PARCC and MSAA results for students in a particular school or school building. A school educator may view all PARCC and MSAA results for students they teach or have taught, depending on Educator student linkages submitted by the LEA or the Educator student linkage data collection. So SLED functionality for next generation assessment. So what is SLED? The Office of the State Superintendent of Education statewide longitudinal education data system is a comprehensive repository of student data from early learning to post-secondary education. SLED provides extensive educational data to schools, LEAs, and the state to enable better planning, trend analysis, performance projections, program evaluation, and stakeholder empowerment, which in turn will help improve the educational outcomes of DC students. So what does SLED contain? SLED contains the following: student demographic and enrollment data reporting by ward, grade, gender, ethnicity, local education agency, and schools, student mobility tracking, duplicative student reporting, non-public schools, special education attendance tracking, annual enrollment audit and child count data, direct certification data for free and reduced price meals, post-secondary data, and of course the topics that we're discussing today, the next generation assessment results and historical data from DC CAS. Okay, so now I'm actually going to switch on to SLED to actually do a live demonstration of how you can navigate to find your next generation assessment results. If you would like to follow along using the PowerPoint deck, please navigate to your handout section of your GoToMeeting webinar, and I am on slide 14. There are two resources there available for you. One is the navigation guidance document, and the other is the actual PowerPoint presentation for today's training. Those are in the handout section of the SLED, of the GoToWebinar navigation pane. So one moment, I'm going to log off here and I'm going to navigate to SLED. Okay, so now that I am on the home page of SLED, just a reminder, I'm using the training environment here. So everything, all the data that you see is actually fake data. There's no real student information in this system. I'm going to log into SLED. And today I'm logging in as a school user so that I can show you exactly what you'll be able to see in the system. When you log into SLED, every time you log in, it's going to ask you to certify and agree to this educational data commitment statement. So you have to attest and affirm that you are an authorized representative of a District of Columbia public school or charter school, and that you're only using these records for the purposes of related to your job purview. So you are not to use these records for anything other than what is intended for you using the data here. And we have to say that, and you have to attest to this every time, just to make sure that we're protecting student data under FERPA, and because there's a lot of data here in SLED, so we want to make sure that everyone is aware of their responsibilities when they gain access to this system. So you have to click agree to move forward. So I'm going to click I agree, and then OK. Once I am brought into SLED, the home page, I can see actually for my particular school that I'm assigned to, I see a current roster of students, and I see several displays of data based on student demographic information. So we see gender, we see race and ethnicity, we also see the ward of residence, the grade level, and duplicative enrollment information for students. The other thing we see here is a student roster. So if I was if I wanted to export this data to Excel, I could play around here with this information and create pivot tables based on gender and grade. I want to see how many students per gender are in each grade level. And I could do that information by exporting this roster here. The other thing I am able to do is I can change the displays of data here. So for grade level, we see currently this is displayed in a chart, a bar chart. Well, I can also display it in a table, just like the table below. I can also export this data to a different window if I would like to just get a better view of what's available here. And we see when I do that, the bar charts are a little bigger, and I can see actually get more information, more details here. The other thing that I'm able to do, go back to the first page there. The other thing I can do is, again, play around with these data profiles, data displays that are there. Also, I want to point out to you, as we're on this home page, just in terms of the data that's here, anytime you see a USI that looks like it's hyperlinked, that means that you can go view detailed student information for students at your school to see things around their historical assessment data, also their if they're students with IDPs and they're receiving special education services under IDEA, you would be able to see some limited information regarding their services. You also can see their enrollment history. So we'll get to that shortly. What I would like to do now is take you to the next generation assessments. Where do you find these results in SLED? So under Program, you're going to click on that arrow, and then you see here, Next Generation Assessments Roster. So I'm going to click on that. When I click on the Next Generation Assessments Roster, I am taken to a window that actually displays 3 different assessment types. You see the categories here, PARCC, MSAA, and also Access for ELLs 2.0. I'm going to scroll down here in my PARCC roster, and I'm going to see a list of students that are enrolled at my school. We see their information about the LEA and the school. We also see the students' date of birth and their USI. As I scroll over, I am also able to see information related to their enrollment and whether or not they were tested at the school. If the student is currently enrolled, that column will say yes. If they're not currently enrolled, the answer there will be no. When I go over to the tested at school column, I will see that the student, if they were tested at the school, there would be a yes, and if they were not tested at the school, it would be a no. So for instance, if we look at the first 2 students, we see that for this USI, I'm not able to click on any detailed student information because this student was not tested at the school. However, for the second student, I am able to click on some detailed information for this student because they are currently enrolled and they were tested at the school. So we put that there for you to help you see and understand why you may not be able to see certain information for students in SLED. And now, the first thing that displays here in terms of assessment results are results for the English Language Arts assessment. So on the English Language Arts assessment, I'm able to see the overall scale score for my student and also the scale score standard, the error there, and the individual student report. When you see this View button, that means you can download the individual student report. So I click on View, and it opens up a PDF that I'm able to read. So here we see for the English Language Arts and Literacy assessment that the student here, Scott Test Takers, again a fake student, he had a level 2 performance level. He scored 721, and it also explains what that level 2 means, which is partially met expectations for 5th grade learning standards. Again, then there's a grid down here, a legend that tells you all the levels on the assessment. And then we go to the Grade 5 ELA details page. And we see for Scott, again, it reminds us of his level and his score. For the reading performance and his writing performance, we can see where he falls on the scale in terms of the average that's met here in DC. And then we see the 3 different subscales or subsections here for reading performance and the 2 subsections for writing performance, what's making up this performance score. So we see there where Scott performed in terms of the subsections. And then we also provide, this document also provides information on how Scott's performance compares over time and how it compares to his peers that are in his school in a DCPS LEA, and then across the district. So we see that here. We can see then that this also provides information for parents on what they can ask teachers around his performance and his and what they should be doing at home, how to help him at home. And finally, we see that there are some questions regarding, or some information on other resources regarding where to find information around assessment scores and results. So we tell them that they can go to learndc.org, parconline.org, or osse.dc.gov. Okay, so if you hold on for a quick moment, I'm going to navigate back to SLED. Just give me 1 second here. Okay, so now I'm back in SLED. And what we see, again, I want to scroll over because that was just ELA. So you can see all of the scores here, everything's available. And then the next section, of course, that displays is mathematics. You can see the same information, but it's for mathematics. And the same score report will be available. So this is, again, a sample score report for mathematics. We see that there is the, again, this student, Ernestina Misner, performed at a level 2. Here's her scale score. We see information on what a level 2 actually means in terms of partially met expectations. We then see the different subject areas regarding the mathematics score. And again, that same information around how the students' performance changed over time and how does their performance compare to their peers within the school building, across the LEA. In this case, the LEA is DCPS, and then across the district. So for the entire state, we see the other students, the average there for performance. And then the same questions that the parents can ask the teachers, and also information regarding where to find more information and other resources. So learndc.org, PARCC Online, and OSSE's website. So as I go back to SLED, now I'm here back on my roster. The one thing that you can do is export this roster to Excel. So within the instructions section of this page, you can see the Excel icon. You can click on that, and it opens up this table in Excel, and then you can do different types of analyses and pivot tables and filters in order to do some analysis on your student performance on last year's assessment. So that's, you're able to do that. So I've clicked on this Excel spreadsheet, and this is what comes up. Again, this is all fake data. I do remind you that when you do it, it'll be real data. So just to make sure you adhere to the educational data commitments around data sharing and student privacy, student data privacy, and also FERPA when you're sharing this data and using it in your LEA building. So go back to SLED here. The last thing that I would like to show you is, as you are navigating SLED, again, like I mentioned before, anytime in SLED where you see a USI that is hyperlinked, that means it's clickable and that there's other information attached to it. So for this particular student, Deanna Brew, I'm going to click on his USI. What this opens up for me is a student SLED profile. This provides information on the student's enrollment history, again, whether or not they are a student who is receiving special education services or who has been identified for English language learner services. Also, if the student is direct certified, meaning they receive free or reduced meals, their assessment history, and if the student is enrolled at a post-secondary institution. All of that information will be available in SLED and show here if we have it. So for the enrollment summary, we can see the student's current enrollment as well as their previous enrollment history in DC. We also can see the student's contact information and some basic demographic information regarding the student. On the special programs page, this is where we can see information regarding a student's special education eligibility as well as the eligibility for ELL. So here we see that history here in terms of the access test and how they perform there and their proficiency level. For special education, we can see that the student is in fact a student who has an IEP, an active IEP, and their primary disability category, as well as the IEP begin date and IEP end date. Under Direct Certification tab, we see that the student is actually direct certified and is receiving SNAP, and that their eligibility information is available there. Under the Assessments tab, we are able to view all of their historical assessments here in DC, I should say current and historical assessments. So we also see their PARCC assessment results, the same results that were displayed on the Next Generation Assessment roster that you were able to see. That information is here for each student if it is in fact available. We see their DC CAS historical assessment scores and their proficiency levels there, and the math score and reading scale score. On this page, we also can, if a student has taken advanced placement courses and advanced placement assessments, that information would be here, and that information is provided by the College Board. If the student has taken the PSAT or SAT, that information would also be here and is provided by the College Board, as well as the ACT. And again, we discussed the access for ELL. The Post-Secondary tab provides information on a student's post-secondary enrollment. And this data source information comes from the National Student Clearinghouse. So we see here for this particular student that they're enrolled in Prince George's Community College. So we see the college, the state where the college is located, the student's enrollment begin date, and their enrollment end date. So according to this data, this particular student, again, this is a fake student, fake data, was enrolled for 1 semester. And that's what we collected so far on this particular student. Finally, the 2 pages here, document upload and document history, are where LEAs provide documentation to share with each other when they're trying to resolve issues around duplicative enrollment for a student. So we want to make sure that we provide LEAs with that, with the functionality to be able to share documentation, and so that's here in the system. So that takes care of the student details information. So just by clicking on that one USI, you can see a wealth of knowledge about a particular student. The other thing I want to show you is the Library tab. Once you gain access to SLED and you log in, when you click on Library, you'll be able to see just general SLED navigation guide, also a data access and use guide. We also have training resources, FERPA regulations and how to report FERPA violations, as well as our reporting calendar for collections, events, and other information that we have at OSSE that we want to share with you. So that's there under the Library tab. Under the Reports tab, you can see an error summaries list and also an error details list, as well as duplicative enrollment report. You can search for LEAs by looking them up in the school directory that's provided here. That way you don't have to go typing in to Google a certain LEA's name if you ever need to reach out to them. Related sites, we have My College Fact Finder, Learn DC, as well as the local school attendance tracker, and this is what non-public schools use to track attendance for students who may be enrolled there. And finally, I want to show you the help section. If you ever have questions or need help navigating SLED, you can go to this contacts page, and there are several email addresses and telephone numbers listed here to assist you with getting access or getting your questions answered. And so that information is here for you on the contacts page. So now I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint presentation, and I'm going to just close us out. Make sure we're all in the same space. If you do have questions, please make sure to put them in the chat box, and we'll make sure to respond to them. So for user support, you want to download the Next Generation Assessment Navigation and SLED User Guide under the Library tab for information on navigating the PARCC, MSAA, and Access for ELL SLED views. This navigation guide was also provided to you today in the handout section of your GoToWebinar navigation pane. You also could download the SLED Navigation Guide under the Library tab to review all available SLED navigation options. I gave you a brief overview here of SLED and everything that you can find there in terms of student data and student information. But if you want to know more, under the Library tab, you can find that SLED Navigation Guide, and it will be able to explain to you everything else that's available in SLED for you to see. For more information on the Next Generation Assessment, please visit OSSE's website, and then you can go to osse.dc.gov/PARCC, as well as results.osse.dc.gov. If you already have access to SLED and need assistance with your username and password, please send an email to sled.info@dc.gov for technical support. And finally, should you have questions regarding the assessments in general and what's available to you, how to truly read the individual student score report, please send the question to osse.assessment@dc.gov. That's OSSE's assessment team, and they will be able to respond to your questions and provide you with some support. Thank you so much for attending today's webinar. Before you log off, please make sure that you, before you log off and close down your computer, please make sure that you take the quick, brief training evaluation survey that's going to open up for you once I end the webinar. We're going to stay on for a few moments to just make sure that there are no lingering questions in the chat box. And once we've answered all the questions and see that there's no more questions, we'll end the webinar and you'll be able to take this training evaluation. We appreciate your time today. I've enjoyed being the facilitator for your training experience, and have a great day. Thank you.